candidates will now speak, and then be quiet, and then I go away from you all.
Today we will be talking about Invader Zim. It's not a very well-known cartoon, but it was my favorite cartoon when I was a child. It comes from a Latin American animator who was working for Nickelodeon. Zim was hungry for power, so no wonder he ended up in politics. So I'm really excited about this episode, so let's get into it. So today's episode is called The Voting of the Doom. The whole premise is that Zim is going to this local school where he's trying to blend in with the human race, and then there is the opportunity to run for class president, so he will start running. So let's just watch the episode and then let's comment on it. I really like this metaphor because maybe you don't see it in general in politics, but then many actually politicians who are already in office, they just want to create this feeling. I mean, look at it in the national level of nationalism, yay school, but in their case, like yay nation, we are the best, this is the spirit, and this is a very funny metaphor of what's actually happening in politics nowadays.
Our greatness is greater than all other greatnesses of all the other schools combined.
This is so funny, especially coming from a country that passed from communism to democracy. There are a lot of times that actually there is this image that the politician is not acting on himself, on herself, and then they always have to be this optimistic, and the moment that they complain about something, that's the moment that they get you, and then they actually they get upset, and then they will dismiss you.
But I would like to say one thing, maybe, about the dirty bathrooms,
Do not be alarmed. The student president has experienced a failure in spirit. A new election will be held immediately.
There you go. A failure on spirit has been detected, so now we need a new candidate. Let's check it out because actually Zim is gonna run.
Volunteers! Volunteer!
Oh, me! It's Zim! Zim is me! Zim is me!
There are always going to be these candidates, and not only on these traditional parties, but in any party or any movement that you will see that they will be like, I really want to do it. I really want to do it. And they're always on the first row because they just want to be the center of attention. They might not be the best ones. Zim for sure is not going to be the best one, but they're so desperate for power that they're just craving to do anything just to be on the front.
Zim! Analysis moron! Suitable!
As president, I will ensure that all mankind has its legs sawed off! And replaced with legs of pure gold!
Completely unrealistic promise, but it's actually very funny and speaks a lot about candidates and how they react, because many times in politics you have a lot of candidates who need a translation in their own language, because they will say something completely outrageous, but then afterwards they say, oh, what I meant was, and then that's what just Zim did. Just let's replace the legs with legs of pure gold.
Yes, and I will grant you the power to fire lasers from your head!
It's actually very funny about this thing on promises and then what candidates tend to promise. You used to see that in older campaigns. You used to see a lot of people saying, I will promise you this. Nowadays, you don't see it that often. And actually, if you're in a movement, if you're in a social cause, do not try to fall in the pressure that you have to promise something. Instead, what you need to say is, we're going to create a solution together. There is actually a misconception that a politician should promise something in order for people to follow them. And that is actually very bad, because normally a good politician or a good social leader, what does is create a narrative that is common, and it will build up something together. So politicians don't need anymore to create just promises. They just need to create sustainable solutions where the community could actually take part of.
I hope you like this! Willie's a drooling moron! As sole defender of Earth, I've got to do something! I offer my services as campaign manager. We'll be a team. Me as the incredible brains, and you as... Willie. Good. Let's talk about your new platform. First, you promised to promote alien awareness. Second, Willie?
I want to stop there because Deep said something that got my attention. Tackle on the real issues. This is such a subjective thing. A lot of people just say, let's go on the real issues. Let's talk on the things that matter. And then many times those things that matter are actually not the most popular ones. So actually, if Deep's strategy is just to point out how dangerous the other candidate is, then he's on a really bad path already.
Candidate's popularity will be monitored by audience brain scan. A drop in popularity will result in a horrible electric shock.
I don't know where this technology comes from, but I do think that sometimes it can be well appreciated.
Now comes the awkward silence portion of the debate.
We don't have silent portions of a debate, but this is actually a very good lesson on what silent communication can do. And this is not only about body language and the gestures that one does when one is in the stage, but this is about little things that matter. A colleague of mine recently was telling me a story where a group of students in a university in the United States to protest to the visit of Betsy DeVos, which was the former Secretary of Education under the Trump administration, they were not able to speak while she was speaking because otherwise they were going to be kicked out of the auditorium. And then they just came with a lot of signs, and then there was no a place in the auditorium where you could take a picture without seeing the protest signs. So what Zim just did here, it's a very good thing. And that is the reason why you don't see many times in debates the audience, because the audience sometimes can, pull out a sign. But actually these details matter. That is visual communication, and that's very important.
This isn't going well. Willie, just repeat everything I say.
Dib, what have I told you about jamming things into students' ears?
This is not a joke. Many times actually advisors tell their candidates, do just what I say. And actually many times the candidates do that, and I'm just gonna say that is actually not such a bad idea. Not to repeat, of course the candidate has to have the leadership to try to understand what information he or she is getting and try to be critical, and then understand that maybe he or she has an opinion different from the advisors. But then one very big mistake on social causes, on political causes, is just to repeat exactly what your advisor is telling you, especially new information. And you see that so many times in new political movements and in social movements, that there is a new idea coming up and then the leader is going to say like, yes, we have to do that. Big mistake. Just be critical and also take leadership responsibly.
Grotesque monster boy avoids the issues. Just what does he plan on doing about the size of Dib's giant head? If I am elected, Dib's head will be removed and filled with salted nuts. Salted nuts!
I'm just gonna stop there also because, not because of the nuts, but because Zim mentioned something on the debate. Many times we just feel that we are in the moral high ground not to speak about the issue, and then our opponent is going to bring up the fact that we don't want to talk about something. Many times it's actually better if we are in a position where it's an uncomfortable answer, just to acknowledge, yes, I want to talk about that, but maybe that's not important, and then shorten up. The fact that you are silent in a specific issue when you're working in social causes or in political causes, that can bring you a lot of uncomfortable moments.
Candidate 2, begin the babbling.
I promise to improve the terrible conditions at the school. Serve actual food for lunch. Yeah, food, yeah.
So I don't know if Deep actually checked out on the priorities of the people, because his initial priorities were completely different. But this is actually very clever. Try to, if you are going for promises or if you go for an agenda, try to actually say the things that you know that you have a plan, because they matter for you and they matter also for your constituency. It's not only repeating, but it's actually trying to tackle the issues that matter to the students. The food of the school is a real issue, not the existence of aliens, for example.
Vote for Zim or I'll destroy you. Vote for Zim or I'll destroy you.
Miss Bitters, Zim is threatening the voters. He's disqualified, right?
I just want to say, actually, there are a lot of candidates who on the election day, especially if they're already in power, they might threat the voters. And that actually is something that is happening in many countries of the world. So this might not be as far from reality as we may think.
Voting complete. Clear the ballot box. Tabulating. The winner is...
Zim! My empire of doom begins now!
The winner is... Willie! Report to the principal's chamber immediately.
This is a very important lesson. Never celebrate before the results come. And this is not only in politics, also in social causes. Once that you set up a goal that is even different from just voting, never celebrate in advance, because you will end up just taking it for granted and maybe you will lose it all, just like it happened to Zim.
Zim? Lose? Impossible! This is your fault, Dim, and you shall pay!
Candidate 2, you won't disappoint us like your predecessor. You will obey. You won't complain about nasty toilets.
Well, they are kind of nasty.
Silence! Now, Willie, as student president, fulfill your destiny!
Okay.
So actually this happens many times. As I said, I think that this is a good metaphor for those working in very autocratic organizations that don't care about the people but just care about being the establishment. If you are just elected, many times you will be just following what other people are telling you to do, but then you will end up not having your own agenda, and that is very bad. And I think that if you ask me, Sim actually got it better off by not getting elected and by watching on what the principal is forcing Willie to do.
Earth smell, by the look on your face, I can see you didn't intend to spare me Willie's horrible fate, and that makes it fun. Thank you, human, for helping Zim! Reward the child, girl.
So I think that this was a rather creepy episode, but there are two very good lessons that we can take from here. The first one is about authenticity. It's about the fact that if you are in a system that oppresses you and then actually pushes you to be a type of politician and then to say a specific thing, rather it's the promises or after you being elected just to say we have to keep out back on spirit, you can challenge those things. And actually people will appreciate you about that. Many people come with a very authentic campaign and then they lose it on the way that they are. And I think that the second lesson is on what the real issues are. As I said, this is also very subjective, and then you will find a lot of times advisors, people that will come to your movement and say this is the important thing, but then it's up to the people in the movement, it's up to us as a community not to identify important issues just because an advisor tells us so, not because we think that this is an important issue, but by doing the exercise of going around, meeting up with the people and understanding what the issues are. If the issues are, for example, what he was saying, the food, how dirty are the bathrooms, then build your platform on those things, but because you care about solving those things, not just because they're empty promises.
As a show of gratitude for your service in the past, here's a sandwich.
But
Thanks for coming, everybody!
But as I said, this was actually a very creepy episode because of how close to the reality it was many times, especially with those politicians that are just following the thing that their party says, what the system says. But also I found very funny the part where Zim was just claiming fraud because he didn't win, and then we will see a lot of politicians who actually do that. You saw it with Trump. Alright, but what do you think? Leave a comment on the comment section. Maybe suggest me what other cartoon maybe we should be reviewing. Subscribe, and I really hope to see you next time.